All right, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Friday Special Podcast. I'm your host, Friday, aka 1K, aka the Visionary. And as you can see, I don't have a guest today. It's just me. This is gonna be a little something different. I really wanted to do something different for my 10th episode. So here it is. I'm not doing away with the regular interviews or anything like that. I'm just trying to bring in like a newer sort of content, to add to the channel. I'm gonna maybe try out a couple things. So today's episode is gonna be part 1 of 6 that I'm gonna try to do, right? And what I'm doing is I've been reading this book. It's 6 Battles Every Man Must Win by Bill Perkins. Here, I'm gonna show y'all. Here's the book right here. I'll probably put it in the bio just in case you guys want to go check it out, right? But it's 6 Battles Every Man Must Win. I haven't read all of it. I'm kind of halfway through it, right? But what I want to do is, as I'm reading this, pretty much take what I read and reflect it, back into my content. You know what I'm saying? Just have a conversation with myself and the camera about it, reflecting on what I took away from it, and yeah, that's pretty much what it is. But just to give you guys a quick overview of what the book is about before I get into it, I'm gonna read one of these shits. Okay. All right. So on the book, on the back, an important book that crackles with aha moments, whatever. All right. It says, an unseen war is raging for the hearts of men like never before. Cultural bullies are whispering dangerous messages. You are an imposter as your job title. Your family doesn't need you. You are what you own. Sex will medicate you. Temptation is but a mouse click away. Economic pressures weigh heavy, and demands of work and family are a constant double bind. In the midst of this war, it's easy to lose your spiritual focus and feel like you failed. 6 Battles Every Man Must Win. Author Bill Perkins offers hard-earned wisdom on how you can reset your sights and prevail in the challenges of life. With refreshing honesty, Bill chronicles his own struggles with disappointment, failure, and depression, and tells how the little-known biblical story of David's band of mighty men transformed his life. In this motivating and practical book, you'll discover how a small band of misfits and losers became warrior heroes. Bill Perkins shows how God helped him to win battles in his own life and strive to be a mighty man of God with his eye on the target, and tells how you can too. So yeah, pretty good book so far. The first battle, right? This episode will be titled, the first battle. It actually starts on episode 4. Chapter 4 of the book. I've already read the chapter. I'm not going to be reading it to you. But I'm basically going to be going throughout the chapter and expressing, my reflections on everything I've read, and maybe expanding on everything a little bit. I think it'll be cool. I ain't seen nobody else do this on YouTube or anything like that. I haven't seen anyone else do this type of content where they, take a book that they read, or, basically like break down a book, on their YouTube or whatever. I ain't seen nobody do this, so I thought it'd be a good idea. Plus, I'm running out of ideas. I'm not afraid to say that, you know what I'm saying? Like, it happens. It happens, running out of ideas. But here, I'm going to go to the beginning of this chapter, and I'm basically just going to be highlighting some of the things in the chapter that stuck out to me, and doing my best to explain like what the chapter overall was about. and also my own personal takeaways. This isn't a long book. This chapter was literally only 7 pages, which is why it was pretty easy for me to read. But battle number one is fight for your identity, right? That in itself says a lot. Fight for your identity. You know who you are. You know who you are. I'm a believer in God, so I know who I am in Christ. I know who I am in this walk of life. I think we've all struggled at some point or another to really find our identity, or really I would say make peace with who you are. But I think he did a great job starting off the chapter like that, talking about that. So basically, in this chapter, he talks about he starts out by talking about two men, or a man that wanted to stay in peace, but he ended up getting drawn into a war that he didn't want to fight. And because he tried to keep himself and his family out of that, his loved ones ended up getting killed anyway. And it talks about how you should prepare yourself to fight before you lose your loved ones. I've written a couple notes here that I took from the book, or took from the chapter, that I'm gonna hit on. Also, some points in the book. There are some points in the book I will read, but I'm gonna kind of be using like both of these, my notes and the book. So in the book, there's a man named Martin, right? And he's fighting, or he doesn't want to fight in the war, but he ends up trying to help both sides, but ends up getting killed. Or his sons end up getting killed as a result of him being so passive. And the author talks about in this book how some things are worth fighting for, before they're lost. But when it gets, he starts to tie back into the fight for your personal, or no, I'm tripping, sorry. Chapter 2. Okay, yeah, here we go. He starts to tie back in the fight for your identity when he gets deeper into the chapter. He talks about this dog, right? And the dog is named, or it's not named, but the dog has been told that he's bad so many times. So if you say bad dog, right, the dog will respond and, come to you. Not because that's the dog's name, but because the dog had just messed up so many times. So many people had looked at the dog and said bad dog, to the point where the dog thought that, that's who he was. And I think that, it's a silly way to explain that, but I think it's important to unpack that, because it's like, man, in this situation, the dog is responding to being called bad dog, even though that's not the dog's name. It's been called that so much. It's been said to that dog so much, to the point where that's who he thinks he is. You maybe can relate, I definitely can relate, you being told that you're this, you're that, so much so to the point where you start to maybe question your identity as to if that's really you or not. A lot of times we struggle with many things in life. Everyone has their own vices. And once you have that vice and you struggle with it for so long, it becomes hard to see yourself apart from what that is. Like, for example, if you're an alcoholic, people tell you all the time that you're an alcoholic, and you fall into that stereotype for so long, to the point where once you once you finally get to a point where you are moving on and you're trying to be better from that, you know, you start to question yourself, maybe like, am I really an alcoholic? You know, is this just a problem that I have, or is this who I am? So that's pretty much what I took away from that. Um and I think that really stood out to me. Like I said, I'm not gonna read the whole book, but I am gonna put it down in the comment or in the description. Sorry, and I'm gonna give, obviously, full credit to the artist, because this is not my wisdom. It's his wisdom, but mixed with my own wisdom that I'm gonna be giving you guys, girls and guys. All right, so he talks about the dog, right? Talks about the dog, and then another example that he uses is football. So he talks about in the book how he was playing football, and his dad wanted him to be a star. Even though that's not what happened. That's not what happened. He ended up tearing his ACL. And yeah, his father basically told him that it wasn't that he quit. He decided not to play football anymore because he tore his ACL. And for all the people that play sports out there, if you know what tearing your ACL is, it's a bad injury. It's a bad injury. You can't you don't have any lateral movement if you tear your ACL. So if you do that, no matter what sport you play, especially if it's football, basketball, you need lateral quickness, lateral movement to be able to play at a high level. So if you tear your ACL, there's a good chance that you're done, depending on how well or unwell you recover from that injury. So he talks about in the book how he tore his ACL and he tried to continue playing football. And in the midst of him trying to continue to play football, he would hurt it again, because typically once you get injured, you continue to hurt it again, and it's a really bad injury. So he decided to stop playing football. And when he stopped playing football, his father basically told him that you didn't stop playing football because you're hurt. You stopped playing football because you're a quitter. And he talks about how in the story, or he talks about in the book, how that really hurt him, because he wasn't quitting because he didn't want to play football anymore. He was quitting because he couldn't, and it was literally, causing him pain. But he was still being called a quitter because he was not continuing to play. Now, what that stood out to me, because I played football. Anybody out there who plays sports, you played sports all your life, maybe you started in middle school, maybe you started in high school. But for those that really play sports all your life, like me, you're gonna understand what I mean when I say that it becomes who you are. And that ties back into, the beginning of what this chapter is about, fighting for your identity. Because me personally, when I stopped playing football, when you stop playing sports and that's all you've been doing all your life, you kind of hit a wall. Like, man, like, who am I without this sport? Who am I without a basketball in my hands? Who am I without a football? Who am I without being on the court or being on the field or being on in the water if you're a swimmer? I don't know. You know what I mean, right? it can be such a hard transition because your identity is so wrapped in what you do that you start to question who you are without it. Or if you lose it, you start to question uh who you are in general, because you've been playing all your life, so you have literally never seen yourself not playing a sport. And this doesn't just apply to sports. You know, this applies to multiple things. It can be, it doesn't have to be a sport. It can be anything. You can think of, I can't think of any other examples right off the top of my head right now, just because I'm so like stuck on the sports thing. But it can happen with a lot of things in life where you start to lose your identity, or your identity becomes so wrapped in what you do, that when you stop doing that, you kind of look at yourself, or even people, look at you like, well, all right, I don't know who he is anymore. Like, he's just a piece of whatever, you know. But I think it's important to find your identity in who you are, separate from what you do. And I'll use a perfect example. I do podcasts, right? I do podcasts. This is what I do. This is not, it's a part of who I'll say it's a part of who I am. But it's not who I am. Football was a part of who I am. It's a part of who Friday is, but it's not who I am. So I think that's I don't want to sit here and act like I have everything figured out, but I think that that's something that I've done a pretty good job of finding over the past few years, especially graduating high school. So I want to that really stuck out to me. That really stuck out to me. I might read some of this just so that I can give you some. So in this book, he says, what's the part I'm looking for? I read this whole chapter this morning. That's I think that's what I'm gonna do with everyone. I might read some of them before, but yeah, I literally just read this chapter this morning. And there's definitely more takeaways, but these are the ones that stuck out to me the most. So he talked about in this book, it says, I'm sure you have been deeply wounded. Maybe you've allowed the scars from such wounds to paralyze your potential and render you as motionless as a toy soldier. I'd like to suggest that in God's economy, these painful experiences are preparation for greatness. Such wounds are the material God uses to build mighty men of faith. You must let Him, not your past failures or present scars, define you. I honestly, I could expand on that, but I feel like I don't need to. There's still some examples right here that I'm gonna read, but I feel like that really says enough within itself. I feel like as people, as men and as people in general, we all have our fair share of scars. We all have our vices, things that we struggle with. Some things people know about, some things they don't. But one thing I do know is that no matter what you've done it doesn't have to define who you are, you know. No matter, and it's not even a lot of times I feel like when people say things like that, they're kind of like focusing on things that you have done in your life. But sometimes there's a lot of things that happen to you that aren't your fault, you know, and those things as well are not a part of who you are. They don't define you, you know. Maybe you've been through a loss. Maybe someone has abused you. Maybe someone has really went out of their way to discourage you. Um, or maybe, you know, you have some vices, some things that you struggle with. Maybe you've done some bad things. Shit, maybe you killed somebody. I don't know. But, you know, it doesn't have to what he's saying by this is to let you know, that it doesn't have to define who you are, you know. That doesn't have to just be it. And I'm gonna read some of these examples that he derived from the Bible. And it says Moses was called a murderer and spent 40 years in the wilderness before delivering the Israelites from Pharaoh. Yet he's remembered today as a deliverer and a great man of faith. Joseph was sold as a slave by his brothers and later spent time in an Egyptian prison after being accused of attempted sexual assault. All of this before Pharaoh elevated him to a position of leadership. What comes to your mind when you hear the name Joseph? Do you regard him as an accused rapist or a brilliant and godly leader? The struggles Joseph faced strengthened his character and prepared him for his role as a great leader. Peter acted as a coward by denying Christ before becoming a pillar of the church. Today we acknowledge his shortcomings, but view him as a powerful man of faith. So, what does all that mean? Those are just small examples of God taking somebody who did things wrong and turned it around. I really think that there's no evil that can't be turned around. Really. I don't think that if someone does wrong, that it has to just be who they are and they can never. What I'm saying is, I think people can change. I think it's very hard, but I think people can change. Okay, yeah, here we go. So, accepting hardships are a true part of life. Now, just being said, that by itself, it's like, of course, you understand that hardships are a part of life, but do you understand that they are really a part of life? Like, it's a part of life, meaning that it's supposed to be there. If you have hardships, we try so hard to run away from them, or escape the pain or the struggle of what life has brought to us, or the things that have happened to us or done to us. But hardships are a part of life. They're supposed to be there. The adversity is supposed to be there. It was never this life was never designed to be perfect, you know. Yet, you know, we still, of course, get angry when, you know, you're shooting a basket and you miss, or, you know, you're trying to go for something in your life and then you fail, or whatever the case. You can come up with things in your mind, you know, whatever that thing is that you got really upset about because it didn't go your way or it didn't happen the way you wanted it. You know, understand that when you understand that hardships are a part of life, you think about it a little bit differently than you did before, because you kind of have to make peace with it in a way. Yeah, last thing I wrote on here was, don't allow words to take away who you are. Of course, don't listen to what people say. Somebody always gonna have something to say about what you got to do or who you are as a person. You just gotta leave people where they at sometimes, you know. But aside from that, see what I, yeah, you can't let the things that people have said about you or the way people might feel about you to bring you down. These are very basic things that I'm saying, but I think it's the reiteration of what I'm saying that will ultimately help you. I'm not the only person on this platform that you're gonna hear say, don't let words affect you. Don't let what people say bring you down. You know, it's very simple concepts. You know, it's like baby food. Anybody can digest it, and it's for everybody. But it's not just me saying that is supposed to help you. I don't expect you to hear me say that one time and then be like, oh, all my problems are fixed in life. And man, shit don't work like that. You know, don't nothing in life work like that. But I think it's the conditioning of hearing that and understanding it, hearing it over and over again, understanding it over and over again. If that makes sense. I don't know. If that makes sense. But hearing it over and over again and allowing your mind to really digest it and understand it is what's going to help you in the long run to be able to actually take those words and apply them to yourself, right? So that was pretty much, there was a lot in this chapter. I was trying to condense it as much as possible. But at the end of every chapter, it has these questions, has these discussion questions. So I'm going to ask these questions, and I want you guys to leave an answer in the comments. Or if you want to get in on this discussion, you don't have to actually be here in the video with me, obviously. You know, you can just be sitting there watching. Leave a comment. I really appreciate the comments on the videos. They help me know that like there's actually people like watching the videos. I mean, I see the subscribers and I see the views, but the comments, leave a comment. All right, the discussion questions, there are 5 of them this chapter. It says, what are your deepest and most painful wounds you suffered? Right. Obviously, I'm just asking aloud. You think about them. I'm going to answer them in my head. You answer them in your head with me. How do disappointment and pain How do disappointment and pain adversely affect a man's identity? Put it in the comments. Put it in the comments. In what way can God use your weakness to strengthen your identity in Him? You may want to read Corinthians 12:7-10 for additional insight. It just has that in there. But the question is, in what way can God use your weakness to strengthen your identity in Him? Right. Why is God's strength found in your weakness? How will this prepare you for your future spiritual battles? In spite of the disappointment you faced, How does God view you? So that is the first battle. Chapter number 4, not chapter number 1, but yeah, this will be the episode 10, and I will do 6 of these, right, until I get to the end of the book. I have a lot of books. I have quite the I got like, I'm coming up on 20 different books. I like to read, and this is a way for me to bring something that I like to do in my free time, and kind of like mesh it with my content, because I do like to read, mostly because I get tired of my phone. You get tired of scrolling. That scrolling is bad for you anyway. So it's bad for you anyway. So I like to get the hard copies of the books because it allows me to just like put my phone down for a little bit. So I take, maybe 15 to 30 minutes. I try to take, 15 to 30 minutes here and there and just sit down and just read a book. So yeah, if you enjoyed the episode, leave a like, leave a comment. Please leave a comment. I definitely enjoy all the comments. Subscribe. If you guys like this content, let me know. Once again, I'm gonna say it again. Leave a comment. But yeah, if you guys like this type of content and you want me to do more of it after I get done doing the 6 segments with this book, you guys can either DM me on Instagram or leave a comment. I don't know how many times I'm gonna say that, but yeah, leave a comment suggesting a book, and maybe in one of the next episodes, or no, maybe after I finish doing this one, I'll pick that one up and take a look at it and see what it's about, right? But yeah, if you made it this far in the video, I appreciate you. Yeah, like, comment, subscribe, turn on post notifications, and we out, bruh.